You're listening to Live Wild Radio, the part-time adventure podcast.
Join us as we explore how outdoor adventures build mind, body, and spirit. Hey, Emily. Welcome back.
Oh, hello again.
Yes, we don't know how many episodes this is in the future, but on episode 17, we had Emily, the backcountry nurse, on our show, and she was at our house. And now we're at her house.
And if you hear a little bit of squeaking in the background,
That's
it's because she has a lovable dog, Zoe.
Yes.
With squeaky toys.
With little like tip taps of her little toes.
Although I think she just died, so it's okay.
Yeah, she's asleep. She had a big day. She got groomed today, and she hated that. Every second of that.
I hate it too.
No, that's not true. You like it when I shave your head. You're
Well, until the clippers.
You get all. It's almost like an emotional thing for you.
Well, because it's
a nurturing.
It's a primate grooming thing.
Yes, that's true.
You know, she picks
like
picks
the
all
monkeys.
picks all the bugs out of my fur.
Just eats them.
Yeah, that's how monkeys socialize. So you know.
It's a beautiful thing. It's
Yeah.
nature.
Yeah.
But our first episode with you, we talked about sort of your adventures and how you fit adventuring with your career. For those who didn't listen, shame on you. But we'll just quickly recap. You're a ER nurse, and then when you're not ER nursing, you're at adventuring.
I'm anywhere else, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I actually just finished up my job at the hospital I was working at because we are shortly moving out to the West Coast for a bit and trying life out there. It's very fortunate when you shift work in a hospital is that you can, switch shifts with people. You can, make time so that you have like 2-3 weeks off. You just, the couple months leading up to and after that, you don't leave the hospital because you're working so much. So you kind of burn yourself that way. But it's a really good system that nurses and healthcare staff are able to have so that we can kind of do longer stints or go more often or what have you. So
yeah, that's kind of cool because we were talking, Catherine and I, about we're always hearing about people who just like are workaholics, but this structure allows you to have that, essentially work hard, play dirty, which is what we talk about. It's like when you're working, you work your ass off. And then you fuck off for a while.
Yeah. So like in 30 days, you'll be working, say like 20 or 21. But keep in mind, those are 12-hour shifts. So it's not like your regular 9 to 5. And it's also very physically and mentally demanding. So it's not like you're just like sitting there and not like doing anything or, photocopying for 8 hours or whatever. I've never had an office job, so I don't really know what they do. I've only ever worked
What do they do?
I don't know. Honestly, I just picture like looking at memes and like sending each other memes
and buying stuff off Amazon.
Check your Facebook account.
Check your Facebook and then you go to lunch.
Yeah.
And you go to lunch and that's...
Yeah, because the first half, like half 3/4 of an hour is coffee in the morning.
Yeah,
you
a cigarette break or whatever.
Yeah, you got to talk, drink your coffee, check your emails.
Yeah. Talk about like the strategic vision or something because that's the corporate thing.
The mission.
Missions are big.
The mission statement.
Yeah. I don't know. Catherine works in the corporate world, so maybe she knows.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I've never worked
It's
there,
all true.
So.
You
totally
have
foreign to me.
like a productive half hour a day.
Yeah, that's a
80-20 rule.
That's pretty good. That's like 2 hours, 1.5 hours of like solid work, and then the rest of it you can just fuck off. I know when as long as you get your work done, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But if we do that in the hospital, people die. So.
Yeah.
Not no.
It's frowned upon. You have a meeting with management.
So we thank you for not treating your job like you're working in the corporate world.
No.
Like office space.
Yeah.
Anybody?
No offense to anyone working in the corporate world. I don't know what you do. It's a big mystery to me.
Well, that's sort of we'll segue into what this episode is about because the first one was sort of about Emily. This one's about what she does for a living, and we're going to talk about like first aid and medical issues in the backcountry. Because nobody better to talk to than somebody who would be the person if you got a stick through your head, who would like stabilize you when you come in and look after you.
Totally.
Yeah. You ever have somebody with a stick through their head?
No. I've never had any like very traumatic head wounds like that.
Leg wounds?
And like often, like if there's a car accident, people will come in with like open fractures. So essentially like the bone is poking through or
Oh,
a piece
wow.
of the bone.
So you've seen that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, tons. And you're like, oh, that's not supposed to look like that. I don't think that feels very good, sir. But yeah, we often nothing sticking out of their body. So like nothing impaled. It's not like that I think it's a Grey's Anatomy episode when it's like two patients and they're both impaled on like a steel guardrail.
Oh, I saw that.
And they like
One's gonna die if they're not gonna.
Yeah, and then he's like, save her, and then he dies, and then she, I think, dies too, maybe, or maybe not. If anyone who hasn't seen it,
Yeah.
maybe not. I don't know.
Don't ruin it.
Yeah, don't do any spoilers on like a 10-year-old show.
It's
Yeah.
more like 20.
I don't think it's that old.
It is.
It's
old.
pretty old. Like it's not
Yeah.
like ER old because that show was amazing, but
Yeah. So, you know, with being out in the wilderness and all that, did you ever take any wilderness first aid or?
Ryan and I both looked into it because that's essentially combining a love of like because we both really like our jobs.
Yeah.
And we're very blessed to actually. But Ryan and I both looked into a couple wilderness courses. I want to say one is in Montana or something like
yeah?
that. There was like there's a company that does them. And we looked into doing them like this past year, so this is essentially 2 years ago. But with his schedule, we weren't able to do it. So now that he's done residency, we might actually have time to like be able to do that.
Cool.
Because you could be those like cool people that get dropped out of helicopters for people.
Those are like flight nurses and flight paramedics. That's a whole other. I thought about that and I was like, what do I do after I emerge?
Did we tell you about that?
Oh yeah.
What?
Go ahead, Catherine.
Yeah, this was just recently. So we on the my holidays, we went with my kids up north. I went a couple places, but we wound up at Queen Elizabeth Wildlands. So 11:45 p.m. at night, where we were just, the kids were asleep. We were out on the peninsula, just enjoying the stars. They were beautiful. And we see these lights. We're like, oh, that's creepy. Like, what are people doing out here? And they're quite bright. There was about 5 of them. But then you start to hear a radio, which is good because it didn't sound more legit. I heard a woman's laugh, so I'm like, okay, it's
No one's being murdered.
It's only
Yeah.
guys that can be creepy. Although statistically, that's true.
That's
Yes.
objectively true.
And then, they got into a rowboat. So thought they're going to the hunters camp because that exists there. All of a sudden, they went around the bend, and this helicopter comes in with searchlights, or like look like something from the Vietnam.
What?
Yeah. All this action going on. So we're like, turning on our lights on and off to let them know we're here. In other words, if you need something,
Yeah.
let
I
us
think
know. Nothing.
Yeah,
They were doing that for a good 45 minutes, and then
circling.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
the area.
weird.
So we're like, what's going on? Because we had passed a bunch of people, so we could, somewhat be helpful as to what we know. Next thing we know, a few days later, there was a search and rescue. They responded to a non-life threatening call, and I guess
The people who were walking and then took the rowboat out were paramedics from Lindsay, who had come up like more than an hour, then made their way into the backcountry.
Yeah.
When the search and rescue helicopter from Trenton, like it's like a Canadian military chopper with Sartex, and it dropped out of because it was doing this like search circle, and then it dropped out of the sky behind the peninsula, like across the bay from us.
we couldn't see them.
Right, you could hear it, but you couldn't see it anymore. Well, it turns out they were dropping a couple of technicians.
What?
And then when the chopper went up and then just flew away. And then there was
Only 3 people
People
that
in
came
the
back
rowboat.
instead of 5.
right, and it was like, that's kind of weird. So we yelled out, "Everything okay?" to the people in the rowboat, and they're like, "Yep." And it's like,
And you're like,
then-
so is somebody dead? Or?
Well, we thought it was maybe at that point
like a training
A
exercise.
training exercise on a Monday night, like it's a good time to
I
do
guess,
that over
yeah.
people, right? But no, it's something real.
yeah, a couple of days later, when we did the Google search, it was in the newspaper.
Oh.
And somebody who had, they said somebody was ill. Like, so who the fuck knows what that means?
It's like
Yeah.
shitting their pants to the point that they can't move.
I think for this whole episode, if we could just talk a bit about the kind of things that can go wrong. Like I've learned very quickly, I guess dehydration, you've learned that. You've experienced it, I guess, probably several times.
Yeah.
And through my keto diet, I've experienced what brain fog is like and how stupid you can get. So, which then causes you to maybe stumble and hurt yourself.
Or make bad choices.
Being exposed to the weather, the elements, hypothermia, ticks. Thankfully, knock on wood, I've never had a tick bite. Never seen a tick on me. But
I pulled one off my arm before
Have
in
you?
my apartment in Cambridge.
What?
Yeah.
You damn dog.
I know, fucking animal. I love her to death though. Oh, she's so cute. No, I was like, I just got out of the shower and I was like scratching my face and I was like, oh, I have a scab. And then I went to like brush it off and then it moved and then I screamed. I was like, oh, ticks are the grossest.
So I got that new thing that you attach to your keychain to remove
The
the
tick
ticks.
remover.
Oh yeah, the
Yeah.
little tick key thing.
Yeah. But that's a real threat. I saw, actually, Outside In, they have a podcast called Patient Zero, 3 episodes all about Lyme disease and ticks and stuff like that.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm curious as to, I know it's only within 24 to 48 hours that you have until it actually starts to set in, right? Because for the first bit, they actually just prepare your skin before they actually start feeding. But how long do they actually feed on you for? I don't know.
I think
But,
it's, honestly, I'm not sure. I feel like because in order for the Lyme to like actually make its way into you, if it's one of the tick species that has, or ticks that does have Lyme disease, I know it does have to feed for 28, 48 hours, but I don't know how long it will actually feed on you. Because I've pulled one off of Zoe before, and it was like easily the size of like the nail on my pinky.
Oh my God.
Which I was like, oh, is this like a skin tag? And then it once again moved, but it was like that. It almost looked like a light brown, waxy, bulbousy, like growth. But then
Because
you
I've
could
been
see like the
feeding.
little legs, and ticks are like the worst. I will take spiders over ticks any day.
Well,
Ticks
because
are the worst.
a spider might bite you, but
It
it's not.
might.
But it's not going to dig in your skin.
No, they're not going to feed off you.
And we don't really have those brown recluses up here, so.
I think
do
we
we do?
might actually. I'm pretty sure we do. Maybe listeners will correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I don't think they're like super common. Well, thankfully not, because I don't see spider bites a lot. But I'm pretty sure there are brown recluse,
Recluse.
the brown ones,
Yeah.
the angry brown ones that will hurt you.
Yeah, because you turn yucky.
Yeah. I've seen because somebody, when I was working in Listowel, somebody's aunt got bit on the foot by one, and her foot turned all like black and necrotic, and they almost had to amputate. We saw like a photo montage of like day 1, day 3, and it got better, yay. But they were talking about taking her foot. So
That sucks.
yeah, so maybe knock out your boots before you put them on.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
guess.
totally.
So as far as ticks go,
Mm-hmm.
suggestions for tick repelling?
There's that. Once you know the name of it, it's that.
Permethrin.
Yeah. You, I believe you can get it from your vet. Well, not your vet.
Or
'Cause
you
you're
can
a
just cross
person.
into America and buy it for human beings.
I just bought some. I want you to help me this weekend put that
Yeah.
No, you didn't. You didn't illegally cross the border with
Wink,
with
wink,
you know,
wink.
not approved insect repellent.
No, we are law-abiding citizens.
That's right.
No.
Try to figure out something around this one.
No, but yeah, because you can get permethrin from. We actually sell it at sale now,
Oh, no way.
Do you really?
but not for people.
Oh, for dogs, wink?
You wink.
I just double winked with both my eyes, but
Yes,
you know
I
what I
c-
meant.
Blink. Yeah, so you can get it at vets. You can get it at TSE for horses.
Yeah.
You just can't get it for people, but you can buy clothing that's already treated with it. And the
Yes.
Canadian military has been using it on their clothing for years. But
Yeah.
That makes
Thanks for
sense.
the heads up, Canadian military. I'm
Yeah.
just getting it now.
um,
Because like other than that, it's like light color clothing so you can see them on you. But like a lot of times they're so small that you're like, oh, dirt. And then
Yeah.
like, you're not going to stop every kilometer and check yourself over for ticks. It is pissing right now.
It is.
yeah.
We made it. We made it.
Nice.
So talk about the severity of Lyme disease for those that don't know about it.
There's multiple stages. So usually in like early stage, you may or may not get that bullseye rash. You might feel kind of like feverish and like shitty and like your joints might be a little bit sore. But then I believe the symptoms go away. Once it gets to stage 3, the symptoms are a lot more severe. So you can get like chronic all over pain. You can get neurological symptoms. It can vary greatly. I think it depends. I don't know if it's like the system that it affects or if it's just dependent on if there's like different strains of Lyme, because not necessarily everything goes to like a disseminated Lyme or a stage 3. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. Just don't get Lyme.
Yeah, and I guess the big thing too, it's like if you do even suspect,
go to your doc, get
your antibiotics.
Yeah. It takes about a month from what I was listening to. I was listening to this today, and for some people, I mean, it could certainly lead to death.
Yeah.
If you do get one, they say to try and keep it if you can. I just bought from my outdoor store a little tick removal.
Like a tick key.
A tick key, yeah, and it has a measuring little measurements on it, so you can take the measurements of it. But it's always good to take it in to get it checked to make sure.
Yeah, because they can test them for Lyme disease.
Yeah,
it's a lot more cost effective, I think, and a lot more. The sensitivity is better until it like progresses, maybe to a later stage of Lyme disease. That the test is more sensitive with the tick itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's sort of one of those things too. It's interesting because, like 5 years ago, it seems like the Canadian medical system didn't even acknowledge that Lyme disease was in Canada. Mm-hmm. Like it was
hard to get treatment.
Yeah.
There were big issues about that. Yeah, I remember hearing about that, and a lot of people were concerned. I think it's interesting to know how, where do they kind of hang out, and I think it's in like grass.
Yeah, it tends to be like longer-ish grass, but it can be like
really
any
kind of brush.
Anywhere.
Yeah,
any brush on like any animal. Yeah. Anywhere. They'll find you.
Even your dog. No, your dogs tend to carry ticks more often.
And Zoe, because she has really long, it's really thick fur, especially in like. But the one I pulled 2 off of her. The first one was like right on her chest that had been feeding for a while, and then there was one like right on the meat of like her jaw muscle that wasn't like feeding for very long. But honestly, they pick the juicy spot. A lot of times it'll be places that they won't get like pulled off of very easily, so they won't be in like the armpits or anything like that, because there's so much friction on skin that it might not necessarily be able to latch well. So that's why they went for the meaty part of her chest, and then her jaw, because the blood flows there. The odds of her, rubbing it off isn't very high.
And they say that for humans, they tend to go to moist areas.
Usually like groin, scalp. I know somebody when we both worked at Sale, Little Al pulled one off his back. That was apparently huge.
Wow.
So do you think like on the AT, because they talk about it a lot?
Yeah, it's super prevalent there. It's like 1 in 4 hikers end up getting Lyme disease, or maybe bit by a tick.
Yeah. Is it just best practice that when you do go backpacking outdoors, you should have somebody check you like all the time?
Oh, absolutely. I would say like every night before bed. Yeah. Everybody get a little nudie. Actually, when we were in Pennsylvania on our backpacking, Sam
had one on her.
Yeah, Sam's like, I'm driving my mom van, so Sam's like, oh, what's this bug? And then Andrew's like, that is a tick. And I have never jammed on my brakes so fast in my life. We were on like this tiny little
mountain
Pennsylvania
road.
like not even a shoulder. And I was like, I don't give a shit. Everybody out. We're checking each other for ticks. So we all pretty much got naked and like checking each other's butt cracks. And like there's cars driving by and you're like, hi. After like multiple days, I think this was like right after we got off the trail. So we were like, we hadn't showered yet, so we were like 4 days of like smell and camp smoke and dirt, and so I've gotten pretty nudie in public just to check for ticks, and I was like, worth it.
Yep.
Nobody had ticks, so yay.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's basically Sam. Luckily, because it was cool out, so we all had long clothes on.
Yeah.
Like I always tell my kids not to go stay on the trail. Right. Mm-hmm. Not only because of that, but poison ivy, but nonetheless, you're always concerned. And that's why I just want to start to spray my kids' clothes with, some kind of bug repellent, like
permethrin.
With a P.
And then if you, basically if you spray down all your clothes, your backpack,
right,
all that stuff with permethrin, and then
it's good for 6 weeks.
Yeah. 6 weeks or 6 washes. Mm-hmm. And then any of your exposed skin, like if you use a DEET, insect repellent, that will help keep ticks away as well.
Why do people not like DEET? Because it's just highly...
Because it melts plastic and will rearrange your DNA.
A little bit. Just a little bit of rearranging,
Like it's
though.
it's an industrial solvent.
Gotcha.
But
It's not
like,
great for you, but
Lyme disease is worse.
yeah.
Basically the occasional DEET exposure for a few days,
Right.
versus
Lyme for your life. Life Lyme.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you hear a lot of after effects, even though they've got antibiotics, but people start to
Well, because a lot of times it's they don't get the antibiotics quick enough,
quick enough.
and
Gotcha.
that seems to be the nice thing. Because I've talked to people in the last couple of years, and now doctors are like, "Oh, ticks, here you go. Here's your prescription."
Yeah.
Like there's no dicking around, going, "Oh, you don't have it." Da, da, da.
Yeah.
Now it's like,
It's-
please don't have Lyme. Please
Now-
take these meds.
Yeah, now there's like radio commercials talking about
Is there
Lyme
really?
disease.
That's
and-
awesome, though. Like, the more,
Yeah.
because I'm sure, like, the elderly people that are living with the effects of it now, like 10 years ago, they're like, I don't know, I don't feel that good. I have this weird rash. Oh, well, I'm going to carry on about my day because you didn't really know about it.
Yeah.
And now you're like, oh,
I was outside. I have Lyme disease.
help me. Help.
Yeah. So the fact that they're doing something about it, I think, is great. I think it was a little slow because maybe just because I was always going down to the States, but like Lyme disease was
Yeah.
on the radar for years. But I would hear about people that got it,
Yeah.
and their doctors would, they're like, "No, I probably have Lyme disease," and it's like, "No, you don't."
There's a
have
big argument. Yeah.
So
It's tough.
yeah. So the fact that we're finally on board, and you can get permethrin.
Yeah.
So
So there you go.
we're all going in the right direction, just slowly.
Yes. We're getting there.
So, what do you think of like the most common things we're going to run into?
Blisters, chafing, like sunburn, like strain sprain, giardia, like missing toenails.
Yeah, that just means you bought shitty boots that don't fit
Yeah.
you properly.
And you should listen to that other episode of ours.
On how to fit your footwear properly.
The things that can happen to a person, like on just like a regular hike or a backcountry trip or whatever, are endless. Like, you can step on a branch the wrong way and then like roll your ankle, and then all of a sudden you can't weight bear, and you're like 2 days in the bush and you're like, oh shit, now what do I do? Or you go use the Thunderbox, take a shortcut, and the next thing you know, you've got poison ivy all up your legs, like,
or somewhere else.
or somewhere else.
if you did not use a Thunderbox.
Yeah, don't squat in the bushes unless you're totally sure you know what you're squatting in. So really, like, anything can happen. It's just like shitty luck of the draw of how bad it is, the thing that happens to you. Because it can be, like I said, it can be such a range from like minorly irritating to like potentially life threatening, but it all depends on yourself, the situation, the severity, and then just the elements too, I guess.
When I just think about the things I've run into, I've had a bad twisted ankle. That's where everybody should hike with hiking poles because they were my crutches getting out.
Yep.
And obviously, we
Yeah.
can talk about other things you can do there. Blisters. Bee stings. I've had bee stings before. I'm not allergic, but
I've gone 30 years and I've never been stung by anything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm probably going to be like horribly anaphylactic, but
yeah. And then obviously, scrapes, cuts.
like what to do with the minor stuff that probably everyone here has done, probably on every trip.
Yeah.
And what to do if you saw through a part of your finger, because I did that on one of our Perry Sound trips. And basically the only thing you can do is you're like, oh, like I didn't saw obviously totally through because I still have like the tip of my finger, but it was enough that like it was bleeding at a pretty decent rate. And you're like, I don't really, this isn't bad enough to actually like leave our campsite for.
Right.
So all you can really do is you don't want to use necessarily skin glue, especially if the source has been dirty. So say you scraped yourself on a rock. Like if the cut is deep enough, you want it to be able to bleed and not trap in all that bacteria that's in there initially. So basically what you want to do for that, fun little how-to, is any clean, like you can use a sock if the cut's big enough, you can use gauze, just enough that it will, once it absorbs enough blood, kind of hold a little bit of pressure on that and make sure you tape it. Not enough that you're going to like cut off all the circulation on your finger, but enough that, once it's putting a little bit of pressure on it. So you don't necessarily have to stand there and like hold the bandage on your finger with like your hand above your head kind of thing. Although it does definitely help if you are able to elevate whatever part of you is bleeding. And just essentially. If it's not bad enough that it's like life or limb, or if you really, really don't want to get off the trail, just pressure. Don't try to like sew it up or MacGyver, anything like that. But yeah, and elevate.
Or sear it.
Yeah, don't
ever do that.
don't cauterize your own wounds. That's the takeaway from today. Don't self-cauterize.
Yeah, never do the thing of like take the gunpowder out of the shell and put it on your wound and then light it to, it's, yeah.
Although if anyone's ever done that, tell me how that was, because I'm curious, but also don't do that.
So, Emily, I'm looking at is this exactly what you would take with you on a backcountry trip? She's got first aid kit all spread out. I'm going to take a picture of this for us to share later.
It's a lot, probably more than most people would have. But I also, I deal in the business of people hurting themselves, doing things that they expected it to go well. And sometimes it did not go well. Mm-hmm. So that's why they come see me. The first thing that I have is my first aid receptacle. So it is a waterproof bag. It's like a little mech one. I feel like it's 1.5 liters maybe. So the two things in my pack always that I keep dry is my sleeping bag, because you can have a shitty day hike, everything's soaked, but if your sleep system is wet, that sucks and that's really uncomfortable. And then I have this in a waterproof, or at least it's like water resistant.
Yeah, it's a little dry bag.
Yeah, it's supposed to be waterproof. I don't know if it really is all that much. I've never tested it and I don't want to.
Probably was when it was new.
Yeah, it's a little beat up now.
Yeah.
Because you don't want your gauze to get wet. You don't want my tensor bandage or my tape or the medications that I have in my little contact lens cases to get ruined basically. So yeah, we can start with medications. So for me, I've run into enough times that in certain instances, I wish that I packed Gravol, because I am super nauseous or I can't stop shitting. So both of those things are very important to me.
Does Gravol help with the shitting?
I didn't know that.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's Gravel's just for nausea, and then Imodium or loperamide is the generic name for that. So I usually have a couple kinds of antiemetics. So I have some ondansetron. I have some Gravol. I think you can, if your Gravol comes in it has ginger in it, if you really want to get a little hippy dippy about it. But 25 to 50 milligrams of Gravol. I want to say that's every 4 hours you can take in the backcountry. It will make you sleepy, or for a lot of people it does make sleepy. But for me, that's the thing. For my nausea, it wipes it out. Some people it works really well. Some people it does not.
And do you find you get nausea? What's causing your nausea?
Usually if I have a lot of the dehydrated meals, it upsets my stomach, upper and lower. So I have to be kind of careful about that. Or if we're traveling, because I bring my first aid kit pretty much everywhere. Mm-hmm. If we're traveling by, if you tuned into last episode, the bus trip that we took up the mountain in the dark, that I had to hold my mouth shut for 4 hours because I was going to spew everywhere if I opened my mouth. Gotcha. So for me, I get super car sick or super motion sick. So
that's good to know, because my daughter's super motion sick, sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have it for the car, but I never thought about taking it with me backcountry. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you end up you brought some sausages or some whatever for a nice little treat your first night, and you froze them. By the time you go to eat them, they're nice and thawed. You put them over the fire, make a spider dog, delicious, and you eat it, and next thing you know, you give yourself food poisoning. Gravol is not going to help with that, but at some point, once the food poisoning or whatever is working its way out of your system, it will do enough to help curb kind of the tail end of it.
It's now.
The second, if you take it in the throes of food poisoning, you'll just throw it right back up.
Yeah.
Can you talk about food poisoning for a second, with respect to food? And because I'm usually pretty lax about that. So I'm curious.
I'm pretty
I wouldn't have thought. At what point would you be concerned about something? Or
really, if you have food that has salmonella, for example, it's going to have salmonella whether you just got it fresh from the grocery store or if you froze it, thawed it, ate it in the backcountry, because it's something that's just contaminated in the meat regardless.
Gotcha.
So even if you eat it right off the farm fresh, you're going to get sick. It's going to get you either way. So
No. cooking can kill it?
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
Really?
No.
So
I don't think so.
Do you ever take any fresh food, fresh meats? Do you risk that?
We usually go for like the cured meats that needs no
Cured.
refrigeration.
Okay.
It's like the sticks. It comes in like a brown package.
Okay.
They're delicious. So that's usually like my extent of like fresh, or maybe we'll bring some like a couple of apples or something. But I usually, my first trip to Algonquin, the person I was with, we were very inexperienced, and we took a full cooler with like, I had like basically pre-made chili in a bag, and we had steaks, and the ice was long melted by like day 2, and then we were there for 4 days. But it was cool-ish enough in the cooler, so we ended up like eating the steaks and they were fine, and then we had the chili and it was like kind of fine, but we didn't end up getting sick. So it's just luck of the draw. I definitely wouldn't bring meat into the backcountry,
But nobody wants to
now.
be sick when
Yeah.
they have to backpack
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they're not even
Heaving
done.
and- yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah,
That's not
because
fun.
I've had some sort of bug, which the when I made it to town, they told me was like a norovirus. Yeah, so you're hiking along, shitting yourself.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is when you were Donald Duck with no bottoms.
Yeah, where I just put a garbage bag skirt on. So, because luckily it was like pouring rain the whole time. So the fact that you couldn't like literally control yourself at all, and it's like,
Oh my
oh,
God.
again, you take 2 steps off the trail, like
Oh my God.
clenching, and it's like, burp, everything's gone.
Oh my God. That's
know.
my worst nightmare.
Did
Yeah.
anybody ever catch you in the midst of that?
And you're like, hi.
Well, but yeah, like I don't know, like
That wasn't your main concern.
no, like you just think you're gonna die
yeah.
Oh my God.
because you're trying to hike along.
And
it's
you didn't have
cold.
you didn't have Imodium on you.
I don't even think Imodium would do a whole lot for norovirus.
Yeah,
I
but
feel
that
like-
long ago, like because we're talking like 26 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Imodium existed.
I don't know.
I'd
That's a
never
good
heard of it
question.
back then.
Okay.
But
Cool.
yeah, so yeah, sort of it's the when your body betrays you, it betrays you in a big
Yeah.
way,
It's just like evacuate quickly.
and then it keeps
Trying to
doing
save the host, but trying to evacuate everything from all ends at the same time.
it. Yeah.
It's not cute.
I wish
but,
I
you
wish I
know,
had an IV I could have attached to my arm to get some hydration in there.
Oh man.
You're probably so pickled, just like a dry little sponge by the end of it.
Yeah,
Your electrolytes are probably off the charts.
Yeah.
But either way, but because I was hiking with no pants, I can legitimately say as an adult I still have not pooped my pants.
That's true. And you know what? That's a proud feat.
Yeah,
Because some people can't say that.
no, I know.
I can say that. Some people can't.
I know.
I
I know.
have
It,
not pooped my pants.
you peed your pants,
Yes.
but that's different.
That was different.
Yeah.
So other things that I have a couple different painkillers. So it's the worst, for me, I have bunions on my feet. So when they ache, it's just the worst. Some people, if you have like bad joints or you have a headache or you like pinch your hand and nothing's broken, but like it's really throbbing. For me, it's always been important to have a couple different kinds of pain control that you can take together. So it's not just I can take this or I can take this kind of thing. If you need to, you can take one or the other, or you can take both at the same time to try to double up on your pain control. A lot of times Tylenol and Advil also work as a fever reducer. So if you are ill on the trail, a lot of times this can help bring your fever down, so you're not feeling like 110% garbage. You'd be only like 105. So for me, a nice little container. I like I just got some like contact lens cases at the dollar store and filled them with like ibuprofen. I've got Tylenol, which you can take separately because they're different classes of drugs. I think I also have some paracetamol, which is in the same category as Tylenol. It's basically just like a fancy Tylenol. I also have some Buscopan, some Peruvian Buscopan, which helps for vomiting as well, because my guide when we were in Peru gave it to me because he took pity on
This
me.
isn't the camel piss.
What?
The donkey piss.
No, the condor piss. No,
Right.
that was the second time I got.
Oh, okay.
This is the first time when we got to our camp. I feel like it was the first day, And it was like, oh, this is so nice. And we were coming down the mountain. I don't know if I told you guys the story.
Yeah, you
I
did.
don't know.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
But I think our listeners should hear it.
Yes. So basically, we're like, we summited the mountain. We're like, oh my God, this is so nice. And then we're coming down and we like stop and take a rest, maybe like 1.5 kilometers. And you can see where our camp's going to be, like across this fairly flat area. And it's like raining and it's super nice and you're in the mountains and it's super magical. And then we sit down and then I'm like, ooh, I don't feel good. Like, I don't feel good right now. I started getting really bloated and like having some gut pain. And I was like, oh no. Like Ryan and I just started dating. I was like, oh no, I hope I don't have to poop. Like, ugh. And then by the time we get to camp and I was like, oh, Ryan, like something's not right. And he's like, oh, is it your appendix? And I was like, fuck, if it is, like the only way that you're getting off of this mountain is strapped to the back of a horse, like going up and then down again. So like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And then the more I'm like laying in my sleeping bag with like huddling around this hot water bottle, like rocking back and forth, and like Ryan being the like nice new boyfriend he is, he brings me, like the cooks had made like soup and he brings me a cup of soup and he just like he unzipped the tent and just like put it in, and the smell of it, I was like, get that soup out of here. I was like a demon. I was like, get it away. That's gonna make me throw up. So it turns out that was my altitude sickness the first time. And I had gone to the washroom and I like almost shit my pants, and I got out of the washroom and I was halfway back to my tent and I was like, oh no. And then I turned in between 2 tents that weren't my tents and like threw everything that I had to eat that day up between where 2 people were in their tents and probably asleep. And they had to listen to me just like be the exorcist. Sorry if those people are listening. I don't think they are, but I'm really sorry. They're from Sweden. And then
Do we have any Swedish listeners?
maybe. And then I go back and shit my pants again. And then I go to bed and like, I don't think I slept all night because I was in so much pain. And I had asked the guide, I was like, hey, like something's not right. Like, and he's like, oh, you have altitude sickness. Like, you're okay. It's like, I don't think I am okay. Like, I think I'm dying. So we checked my oxygen. It was like 82. And he's like, is there like, what do you want? And I was like, I don't know. Like, can I stop like throwing up? Like, whatever. So he gave me Buscopan and then he let me suck on the oxygen for a bit. And then I think I ended up taking some gravel. Yeah. It's just like, you have never wanted something so much more in your life. You're just like your life depended on it, but you were fine. So I kept it because I didn't actually end up using it.
So what does it do? It's just an anti-nauseant again?
It also, I think it helps with nausea, if memory serves me correctly. Can also help with diarrhea as well.
Both ends?
I think so. I think it acts on the smooth muscle in your bod. I'm pretty sure.
Cool.
So I have asthma and I have my Ventolin, and it's usually just animal induced, which I took anyway, so it's all fine. But do you ever hear about people backpacking and, you know, even though it typically is animal induced, like is that something I should always bring with me? Because I don't.
Well, there are animals in the outdoors.
Although if you're that close to them that they're inferring your allergic reaction, then there's some, you've
they could be
more
bunnies.
pressing problems.
No, but have you ever heard of, and sometimes I have had asthma attacks in weird situations, maybe smoke. But even being on a bus once, I had an asthma attack. That was
maybe
weird.
somebody's perfume.
Maybe
that can set it off
horses
too.
set me off.
Huh.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, but if
like if somebody has horse hair on their hands, I don't know, but I'm just wondering, is that something that I guess you should just take with you?
Because we were kind of talking about this before, of whether or not any of us know any diabetics that go hiking for an extended period of time, or even like probably even on like a little backpack loop. But not just any diabetics, because you can be controlled with medication, so like metformin, or if you're diabetic that doesn't necessarily need to check their sugar every day, then I could picture them being on the trail a little bit, I don't want to say less burdened, but kind of a little bit easier than it was if you were insulin dependent, because that's like, if Winston, you know, like when you were on the AT, you can eat enough food, you could like barely drink enough water for all the energy that you were expending. Like I can't picture someone who is insulin dependent and have to check their sugars and adjust their insulin dose depending on what their sugar is. I can't really picture them being able to do like the PCT or something like that.
Yeah, like, but it's if anybody is like a type 1 diabetic who is listening, you know, like
Get at us.
send us a message.
I got questions.
Yeah, you
A
know,
lot of
because
questions.
it's one that we started talking about and nobody had an answer to. I know people probably do this kind of shit. They've just probably had to figure out how to do it.
Yeah. And like, because we've never had to overcome that kind of like hurdle or adjust with that challenge, like I don't even know how you would start.
So we're interested.
Yeah, I have questions. Get at me. And then the other thing, if like, yeah, any medications you take at home. So like, if you have hypertension, like don't stop taking your medications. Like take all of that on the trail, because I feel like the medics that are in the area of like the AT or PCT or like the CDT or whatever, this is probably a common thing.
Yeah.
Actually, one thing that I should have on the subject of people with hypertension and heart issues, I don't have aspirin in my first aid kit. And that is something that, like, if you have nothing else, if you just want to have like the bare minimum, but you're going to be on a trail that's not totally deserted, I feel like the CDT out of the three is less populated. So
Yes.
you're not as likely to, you know, hike with a group of people from like start to finish or even for like a section. It's a good thing to actually have in like civilian normie life as well. So it should be 2 chewable aspirin, so 160 milligrams. Because like somebody starts having chest pain, like it's going to be nice that you're like, oh, I don't really know what else to do. Here's this. And
Good
then
to
that
know.
actually can help quite a bit. Yeah, when all else fails. if
Because it's
they're
a
having
blood
chest
thinner,
pain.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because it's
can-
not like you're going to keep nitroglycerin to put under their tongue.
No, but at least you can have aspirin.
Yeah.
And then you can be the hero with
You can save
aspirin.
somebody's
And you're
life
like,
doing that.
yeah, there you
And
go.
they're baby aspirin. They taste good.
Yeah, I think they're orange flavored in the hospital.
Yeah.
They're orange colored, so I can only assume that they're orange flavored.
Because like if it was like, you know, pineapple or strawberry, it would really
Or
put you off.
the amoxicillin banana flavor
Oh, that is the grossest
of your.
shit.
What? That is so delicious.
But
I'm
I'm not a big banana fan,
man.
period.
Oh, that sweet, banana flavor. It's so good. I was mixing it up in the hospital one time and I could smell it, and like all of my childhood memories came flooding back. Of like, I was sick a lot as a child. So I was like, oh, remember that
Lullaby
time?
music, yeah.
It was so delicious.
Well, hey, whatever. You know, I just want a different flavor. Give me orange creamsicle. Like
That could be good.
I've never had orange creamsicle, you know, antibiotics.
Mm.
You know, because that banana, like when I smell it, it's like, oh fuck.
Oh, it's so good. If they make that into like a liquor flavor, get out of here. I would drink that.
Okay, that actually brings me to a question.
Being hungover?
No, painkillers and alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
You can take ibuprofen with booze,
Correct.
but you can't take Tylenol.
Correct. Because the enzyme that breaks down alcohol is the same one that breaks down the alcohol. So it can only do one at a time.
Oh, you mean breaks down the alcohol breaks the one that breaks down alcohol breaks down Tylenol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. So we can only do one at a time. So you don't want to end up having like a high amount of acetaminophen accidentally, because that can also cause liver damage as well. So
And how much time after drinking alcohol can you take the Tylenol?
I think it's
Like 5 hours?
no, like as long as the alcohol is in your system, like your body's metabolizing it. So it should ideally be like way, way after you've had your last drink that you would be like beyond sober enough to drive. So just take Advil. And,
If you're drinking.
If you're drinking, ibuprofen.
Okay.
And
really
when we're
important
talking
then.
about pain, and I don't know if you guys have gotten into this in the official medical industry, what about things like CBD oil and
There's not enough like actual studies to say it like absolutely helps with this in this dose and this strain, because it's so new. It definitely does help with like pain control. It can help with anxiety. It can help with like sleeplessness and
Inflammation?
appetite. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that.
My dad took
When
it
you-
for his
I noticed that
rheumatoid.
with other stuff.
no? That was
The weed gummies.
yeah. But we were in Nevada and it's perfectly legal.
But we were doing a lot of hiking, and we had
Yeah, we were rock climbing and
Yeah, and I was quite inflamed in my knees, and all of a sudden I wasn't.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
definitely
And
like
that was just a very low dose. Like it was honestly did nothing for me except take away some pain.
oh yeah, as long as it doesn't have like the THC.
oh no, this had some of
component?
that in it too.
Oh, okay. So you're feeling extra great.
It's like
I actually didn't feel anything except the pain was gone. 'Cause I kept
And you were
saying
just really mellow and
Yeah.
kind of hungry.
yes, that's true. Right? Thirsty and hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, but I'm just sort of wondering, like, and I guess because it's been illegal, we haven't had time to do the science on it
No,
yet.
and like you can't get funding necessarily for like a technically illegal substance to do like the kind of studies that you need to certify something as like a medicine, because you have to have like a lot of studies in a lot of different like centers and with a lot of populations and with a lot of different illnesses, and they all have to be ethical, and there's a lot of hoops that you have to jump through
And
to
you
get.
have to have double blinds. I know that much.
Yep.
Yeah.
Double-blind RCTs.
So if you stay tuned, eventually we might be able to come to you with some data on
Yeah,
on weed stuff.
I'm
But be
pro-
aware, you do not want to cross the border with anything
Yeah,
from
don't.
Canada or the U.S.
No,
that
don't.
stays.
Don't do that.
Wherever you get it, use it.
Yeah. Gonna have to use it all up there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Darn.
But that's just a curiosity I had as far as pain killing.
I would say, but like, say you're gonna do like the Killarney Loop in Ontario, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna take some CBD oil for the inevitable back pain that I get from sleeping on my air pad or whatever. Try it out beforehand, because you might put all of your eggs in one basket. In that you're like, oh, speed, I'm going to use it, and then you go to use it, and it doesn't work for you, or it doesn't work in the way that you thought it would. So before you,
Always have ibuprofen.
always have ibuprofen. But
Yeah.
like definitely pro CBD, because my dad had horrible rheumatoid arthritis, and he didn't want to take methotrexate because it's a great drug to help with like inflammation and autoimmune stuff, but it's just ruins your body, and then like all of your body fluids are cytotoxic, or is it non-cytotoxic? Anyway, they're really bad. And he didn't want to do that, and he ended up just doing CBD oil, and his arthritis is totally manageable now. And before, he couldn't even like get up off the floor after playing with my nephew. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So
But shout out to the keto diet. I can't say enough of that.
for
Of what-
inflammation.
oh yeah, yeah. Like any of those carbs, right, and sugar, what that does for increasing inflammation in your body. It's pretty big. So what about if you get poison ivy? If you're like, oh shit, I just rubbed up against poison ivy. Is there anything you can do to deal with that?
If you have calamine lotion, sweet. It, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that poison ivy, the thing that irritates your skin is the oil, correct? Actually, a friend of Ryan's, it might have been a coworker, but he was like camping, or he was going on a hike, and he realized that he had just gone through a ton of poison ivy, and he's like, oh shit, I'm really itchy. I'm going to have a hot bath. So he gets in a hot bath, and it was probably only all over his legs, but then it was, because then the oil kind of like in a hot bath
Percolates through the
it
water.
percolates. So you're just marinating in this poison ivy oil.
And your pores are open.
Yeah, you want to
Open
go
for
and take
business.
a cold shower and soap it off.
Yeah. If you can
Yeah.
like go in like a freezing ass lake and like I
Or-
don't
or-
recommend
or like
rubbing
a-
it with your hands,
No,
but
but
like
like a
rubbing
wa-
with a sock or whatever.
Like a waterfall, because then it washes it
Yes.
away from
Really?
you.
Yeah.
I always wondered about alcohol, like hand sanitizer, if that would help evaporate the oils. I had heard about that somewhere.
That's a
Apply that immediately.
I'm gonna look that up actually,
Yeah.
because that would be really good for me to know.
Yeah, I think that's what they said. And they said that the ones that are most poisonous are the young plants because they're so rich in oils.
Yeah.
But what I think is interesting is that poison ivy, can be hanging vines, it can be bushes, it can be a lot
Tricky
of
little
things.
bastards.
Yeah, yeah, and they do change color throughout the season, so it's not just the typical green. So leaves of 3, let them be, and run.
Just stay on the trail.
Yeah, don't go off trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's sort of your big one. Stay on the damn trail, people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So let's continue on.
Yeah. So
Emily's first aid kit.
yeah. And then I also, this is my like fun little bonus one. I don't necessarily take, I've just Gaviscon, because like I said, when I eat a lot of camp meals, it's just like so high in salt and fat, and it just sits so heavy, and I just feel like garbage. So
Oh yeah.
that's like
I had that.
so it's a fun little,
Gaviscon, eh?
it's
That's good to
it helps with
know.
heartburn if you get, especially like when it's super salty. I
That
just,
refluxiness.
oh, it's the worst.
I
You're
had
like,
that.
am I having a heart attack? Like, am I dying?
Yeah.
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 That's why I
Okay.
like being me. Like, I don't look good, but I can just eat anything.
The outer exterior is just battered to shit, but inside, perfectly preserved.
You know?
Nothing's ever wrong.
Like, not to say that, I never get sick or anything, but as far as, like, I hear people with like the heartburns and the acid refluxes, and it's like, oh, I ate too much of this or too much of that, or it's like, yeah, it's food. It's fine. Just
I feel your pain.
eat
Must
more.
be nice, Winston.
Yeah, it is. But I have hair on my back, so nature got me back.
This is true. Got
Yeah.
you back.
You gotta. We're continuing on with drugs.
Yeah, so that's just my gravel.
More drugs.
Also, what is a really good idea to have is some Benadryl.
Oh yeah, the drill.
The drill, it'll put you in a drill fog after, if you're one of the people that like, I'll take a Benadryl and it'll be like, I'm stoned and drunk and like high at the same time. I need to go to bed. But if you have any allergic reaction, can also be given rectally, if I'm not
Mucous membranes.
mistaken. Yeah, mucous membrane. If you really like, if you're in a jam, like it's not gonna
You don't
be absorbed quickly,
Especially if
but
you're
you
throwing
can
up.
put it in your butt. Gravel, the diamond hydrogenate is for nausea. Diphenhydramine is Benadryl, so it's for allergic reaction. So if you get like a rash from like a bug bite or something like that, so that would help it really well.
So, curious question, and I don't know if you have the answer to this one, because my daughter, we were in the DAX, and her eyes just started to go red and itchy, and her eyes just blew up and had like a film over it. It was brutal. So I tied her hair back. So I was thinking, if there's something in her hair, keep it away from her face because it's long. And we just stayed away from. She had just walked through the grass, so I figured it was some kind of pollen or something.
Yeah, Benadryl.
Yeah,
Give her the drill.
Yeah, now she's a child.
Think
You
of
can get
Benadryl for
Benadryl to your
kids.
dog.
Yeah, you can. That's
Can
also
you?
a great reason of why I have it in my pack. I feel like for Zoe's weight, which is 70 pounds, she can either do 50 milligrams or 25. I had it written down once and then I lost
So I
the
guess you
paper.
should just check the packaging, eh?
Yeah.
Because it's not like the ones that you buy in the store isn't branded for pets, but you can probably just call up your vet and ask. It's like, my dog, it's X amount. Like if we're going to go, camping, what's the dosage for Benadryl? And like, it's the same.
But for children,
For children, it'll be on the package.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
the problem is that you're not always carrying the package. So I think, I guess just keep that in mind, what's in your
Yeah.
thing.
You can always write on it as well. So like I have mine
That's a good idea.
labeled, and I always buy the same strength of medications because like, for example, ibuprofen can come in 200 milligrams and 400 milligrams. And there's a size difference, but like if you're in pain and you're like, oh my God, give me whatever. And you accidentally take 2 400s, it's not the end of the world. But if you do that over the next few days,
You can burn a hole in your stomach.
you're going to give yourself an ulcer. So as long as you either write on like the little package that you're putting it in, or you always buy the same strength medication, then it's good you can kind of keep track of it a little bit easier that way.
What's that?
That is a anti-nausea medication.
Oh, gotcha.
You have a lot of versions of that.
I get really car sick. We went on a cruise and I didn't stop taking anti-nausea medications the whole week, which if you've ever mixed alcohol and Gravol, it's not a good mix. So you have to like fight through this haze where your eyes are closing, but you're trying to open them. So they're doing that roll back in your head thing. And people are like, Emily, are you okay? Do you need to sit down? I was like, no, if I sit down, I'm going to fall asleep. I just have to push through this. And then once you get over the hump, you're fine. And you can keep drinking.
In the meantime, you look like a zombie.
Yeah.
Emily, do you want to sit down? No, I don't. Give me a drink.
It's funny, but back to Benadryl. One of the funny things that I learned, this last trip on the AT,
Yeah.
is the amount of people that take Benadryl regularly so they can sleep.
How can they have trouble sleeping
I don't know because I never
I have
had.
trouble sleeping.
when you're working hard all
No,
that day?
but like in real life, I have problems shutting my brain down. But like on the trail, hike 20 miles, you have no problem sleeping.
Yeah.
Yet there's people like
Maybe because there's people snoring. Because they're sleeping in
sometimes.
huts.
Or you're like, your ears are just listening for like that branch snap and you're like, what is that?
You know what? I think you get to
That's
a point
me.
where you just get used to it. Especially if you're that tired. I've
Yeah.
heard stories of people saying, I see you mountain lion, but you know what? I'm fucking go to bed before you can eat. Yeah. There was somebody that was on Backpacker Radio talking about that anyway.
Yeah,
Oh
but
my
if
God.
you see a mountain lion, that's not really what you got to worry about. It's the ones you don't see.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
true.
They're ambush predators.
I know.
But yeah, like it turns out that 3 Benadryls
Yeah.
Good solid 8 hours.
Oh my God, I might die.
You know.
They're usually, well, depends on if it's like 75 milligrams of Benadryl, so you take 325s. I mean, it's not going to kill you. But if you took 150, that I wouldn't take.
Oh no, I'm not
150.
endorsing this. I'm just saying
No.
something I observed.
Hey, you do you.
Yeah.
Just be aware of what you're doing.
Because I can't think of the last time I took Benadryl, because I don't tend to have allergic reactions to
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
What I'm wondering is, like, would people be taking it because you do get that kind of drunky stoned feeling?
It puts me to
me.
sleep anyway.
Yeah.
So you kind of get like drowsy and a little dopey, and then next thing you know, you're asleep, and then you don't really wake up until it's morning
Maybe that's
time.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
You get like a
Sure.
solid 8 hours, but it's like a solid 8 hours of like semi-conscious.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's really restful.
Maybe they're
Yeah.
too soft to carry alcohol.
Oh well.
So
Okay.
what else you got here? You got
So I got a pair of scissors, pair of tweezers, and the coveted nail clippers because hangnails in the backcountry fucking suck. I have your standard absorbent gauze. I have a tensor bandit, a couple kinds of medical tape. One's waterproof, one is not. Again, this is
Okay.
I go a little ham with this. I also have the tenacious tape to repair whatever. You could probably get away with just like a piece of it if you really want to count your grams, but I bring the whole roll because usually if I'm in the backcountry, then like I've ripped up huge hole in my tent when we were out before, and I was like, oh, it's okay, I got like all of the tenacious tape in the world. And yeah, obviously little scissors to fix that. I guess if you have a knife too, you don't really need the scissors. So there's lots of things that you can cut out and it would still be a pretty comprehensive
You know what you don't
kit.
have? Is duct tape.
No, I don't have duct tape.
I love duct tape. I use it for my blisters. And I have it taped around my knife holster.
That's a good idea.
And electrical tape too.
That's a good idea.
But
I don't have electrical tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas I actually I don't have any on right now, but I generally wrap it around my trekking poles.
oh, do you?
The duct tape. Yeah.
Yeah. It's probably
Yeah.
not, and it's sanitary because it's just tape on tape, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as your blister's not cut open.
Yeah.
If it's just anyway, I always thought that was funny when you first introduced. Here, put this on your blister.
Yeah, like slap it on, yeah, because it's like the friction
Yeah.
is the culprit of
Yeah.
blister. So if you take away that friction, like
It's
it's no
amazing.
longer sock on skin or boot on skin. It's just
Rubbing on the tape.
rubbing on the tape.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that seems to work really well. And the thing is that I like with the duct tape, if you use good stuff like the Gorilla brand duct tape, shout out Gorilla, theirs stays stuck. Like if I put it on, it'll stay on for 5 days.
Oh, is that what we
Oh, wow.
bought in Utah for my tent?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they come in camel too. So if
Yeah.
you want to look all fancy.
So
Oh,
in
fans.
Escalante, Utah, at the whatever fucking hardware store it was,
yeah.
it's like some U.S. little regional chain, not Home Hardware, but whatever their version of it, Value Hardware, True Value Hardware. The only duct tape they had was camo.
Of course.
Yeah, because it's one of those things where there's only 2 types of people out in that territory. No, 3 types. So there's the Mormons because it's fucking Utah.
And the polygamous.
Well, that's the Mormons,
Right.
Then there's the good old boys.
Do we have to edit this out?
No.
Okay.
But
We're
like
never sure where this is going
it's
to go.
the the country living cowboy pickup truck,
The yeehaws or not the yeehaws?
they're borderline yeehaws, but like they're legit cowboys. Like they
Okay,
ride
yeah,
horses
yeah.
and they
They
herd
look
cattle
nice, and
and
they look nice in their jeans.
And you're like, hi.
and then there's
Howdy.
like there's all of us like outdoor people. Right? It's like, oh, look, there's rocks. Oh, look, we're going backpacking. Oh, look, look at the things. It's cool. We're going,
Yeah.
like basically everything we wear is wicking, and
Technical everything. Technical underwear. Technical socks. Technical everything.
yeah. And we're not going around in an ATV or riding a horse. We're on foot or riding a mountain bike or. So that's the 3 people that you will run into in Utah.
Yes, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah. So
In Utah.
nothing against them, because every Mormon I've met seems perfectly nice.
Yeah, every Uten.
Uten.
Every individual from Utah has been lovely, and they have fantastic barbecue.
Yeah.
So thank you, Utah. for the
Their
barbecue.
rules on alcohol I could
What's
do
the rules
without.
on alcohol?
So basically, I've never any store I've been in Utah, like I've never seen like hard liquor, only beer and wine. Like you cross over into Arizona to get the good stuff.
Oh,
And yeah, so I could be full of shit. I just might have never seen it, but it is kind of a no Sunday booze sales.
oh
and,
God.
yeah.
They do have White Claw, which I know I see a lot of like memes and people make on the internet making fun of it. But if you've never had White Claw, it's delicious.
What
it's
is White Claw?
It's like seltzer water, but with like a little bit of flavoring in it, and it's like in a 355 ml can, and it's 5%, and you can
Cool.
drink 5 of them, and you're like, "Oops, I'm drunk," and they're the best. They're so delicious.
That sounds like a fancy wine cooler.
But there's like no sugar and like all that stuff.
Oh, so I can have it.
Yeah, it's
keto
keto. It is. Let me tell you, it's delicious.
White Claw. I'm gonna
White
search.
Claw. It's
Okay.
so good. I haven't seen it up in Canada, but like, oh, it's so refreshing. We were drinking it at Lone Rock campground, just like chairs in the sand, and like my big Nalgene bottle just filled to the top with
Nice.
White Claw, and you
Nice.
just got drunk on the beach.
We'll
it
have
was
to look
awesome.
for that next time.
Yeah.
So what kind of wraps do you have there? I see some.
Yeah, just I've got like a tensor. I think just like a standard gauze.
Yeah.
And then for the most part, I have like a little sling triangle bandage, which if you've ever had one of the fabric ones on home from the hospital, they're incredibly uncomfortable. So if you can use anything else, I would probably want to use that. They're kind of tricky to actually tie on. You have to like do it a certain way. We always have our ADTs at work do it because I can never figure out how to do it. You think I could, but nope. Yeah. And then I have some Tegaderms, which is good. They're like a thin plastic kind of like membrane bandage that you can either get with like a little white spongy part in the middle or not, but they're waterproof. So they're good for like if you have a
Cool.
cut on your hand.
That's a great addition to mine. And can you buy? Where do you buy that?
Drugstore,
Okay.
over the counter.
So what we're gonna do for our listeners is we're gonna have an article, and we'll put this list, but we'll take a picture of some of
Yeah.
these things
I'll
and
lay
or
it
at
out
least-
nice. And
Yeah, that
So
would be handy.
what's your thought on like I guess trauma bandages and tourniquets? Because in the prepper kind of bushcrafty, borrowed from the pseudo tactical world, there's a lot of talk about this stuff, and everybody says, "Oh, you got to have your whatever." Fuck, I can't remember what they're called, but essentially there's some variation of like military tourniquets.
they've got like a little like a twisty, and then it locks in place. There's more research now that before it was like, oh, you put the tourniquet on, and then you don't want the limb distal to it to like lose all circulation, so you let out a little bit. But then what ends up happening? So if you have like a huge lower leg wound or like arm wound or whatever, you put the tourniquet above that, like between the cut and like the joint. So either it be like the elbow or the shoulder or wherever. You put it as tight as it'll go, and you'll know that you've gone tight enough because the person will be in agony. And that's when you know it's going to be tight, because the blood will have stopped and they will be begging you to take it off. And you have to go, no. Because the second you do, and you loosen it a little bit, the blood will flow and you'll pop the clot and the bleeding will start back over again. So if it ends up being a life or limb situation, like you might have to lay on top of this person if it's like an arterial bleed.
Okay.
And you're like, if you take this off, like you will bleed out. Like there's not a lot of leeway. If it's a venous bleed, you know the difference, because arterial bleeds will actually like squirt. Venous bleeds will be fast, but you won't get any airtime with them. Like they'll just bleed out. They don't like hit the ceiling or anything like that. But still, if you're looking at it and you're like, oh, that's too much blood that's not in your body, then you should put a tourniquet on. If you're somewhere where you're not sure, put the tourniquet on. There's never been a limb amputated due to proper tourniquet use, because there's always microcirculation. There's always those little tiny capillary beds that are still perfusing. The limb won't die. They're going to be in so much pain, not just from like the tightness of the tourniquet itself, but from the oxygen deprived tissues and the cut itself. So we had like a little talk on this in my trauma course, and they're like, yeah, they're going to be, you know what, they're going to be begging you to take it off, but until you're in a center where the paramedics can assess it and go, okay, we can take that off, or you're in a center that they can go, okay, we can take this off, because if it's arterial and it starts bleeding again, like, you might not have the time that it will take to do the tourniquet up again before the person passes out or dies.
Okay. And this actually makes
So don't fall.
Have a tourniquet.
Yeah.
You can get them on Amazon for like $10.
And what do you
Carry
think of like clotting agent? Or is that even a thing?
I've heard about it. I don't know too much about it to form much of an opinion. I think as long as it's like for the general population, if you're looking at a cut and you're like, oh, I think that's bone and like that looks really bad, whatever you got, put it in there. Like if it's a special bandage that might have, it's like I think it's like a powder. Yeah. I can't think of the name, but I know what you're talking about.
We'll call it Circloxolot.
Circloxolot. So if it's something with Circloxolot and you're looking at it and you're like, you know what? I don't know if I'm comfortable with leaving it, and I don't know if I'm comfortable with like making that decision of, you know, we're going to do X, Y, and Z because, you know, you might not necessarily have any medical training. Throw it on. Absolutely throw it on, because it's better to throw it on and be like, oh shit, we didn't actually need it, than throw it on and you're like, oh, I really miss that person. Like RIP, they bled out.
Yeah. So we're now, like, we're talking about what's in the first aid kit, and we're going to have an article about sort of some suggestions and how to put your own together. But the last couple of questions then have raised the whole thing of what kind of, outside of the gear, what kind of training should people get?
That's a really good question. I would say, like, as long as the class is, and it can be super dry, get your basic first aid. Because then that can give you enough experience and enough knowledge to know that if in, like, you know, you're on the AT, or even if you're in like a metro parking lot or something like that, and somebody like goes down or somebody hurts themselves, and there is absolutely the bystander effect, and your people are looking, you're like, oh, are you going to do something? And then, are you going to do something? Am I supposed to do something?
Yeah.
You can just be like, you know what, fuck it, let's just do it. So you know enough about, you know, a basic situation. Like, if something really major has, you know, happened and someone has internal bleeding, even like, I can't do shit about that. And like, I work in a trauma center, like, or I worked, in a trauma center. There's only so much that you can do in the situation and what you've been given. So either, you know, best case scenario, you're outside of London, Ontario, on like Sifton Bog or whatever, and you trip and fall, or you fall off a thing, you fall down a cliff, whatever, and you have major injuries, you're close enough to a trauma center that, you know, you got your best chance, and no like very drastic intervention is going to be needed outside of the hospital. Whereas if you're like Wayne Algonquin, like for the bystanders and the people that are trying to attend to a person that's sick, like you're not expected to know how to manage every situation. Like you should teach it, like for the general first aid, I think it's run through Red Cross. They'll teach you if someone's having chest pain, you know what? I think that we should give them aspirin. So then you just give them aspirin and you try to call EMS. If someone has a cut, you know what? That's bleeding really bad. Let's put pressure on it. No pressure. Don't give them aspirin.
Yeah.
That's a bad thing. Put pressure on it. Okay, pressure's not working. Tourniquet time. You know, like it's just, it gives you a good basic knowledge, and it should give you enough, what's the word I'm looking for? Enough confidence, more or less, to at least know what to suggest, if not necessarily know, you know, to take charge and know what to do in situations. Even just like researching like your own stuff. So like say you are anaphylactic to bees or something like that. Know what you should have in your first aid kit. So Benadryl, if you can get ranitidine, because we give ranitidine for anaphylaxis in the hospital. You bring your EpiPen. I don't know if Solumedrol, which is the other drug that we give, comes in a form that somebody can necessarily take out of the hospital, or like on the trail kind of thing. but just knowing the things that you maybe are prone to or people in your party are prone to, so you have the tools to set everybody up for as much success as can be expected.
That's a key thing. I now ask when I go backpacking with people, do you have any medical conditions?
Oh,
And I
totally.
don't even care if it's not current, but anything. Like, I want to know, because I think as a responsible backpacking partner, you let people know that. So that if something does happen, it's not a surprise, right?
Absolutely. Like if somebody is diabetic and say they are controlled with like oral medications and they don't check their sugars, but they wake up one morning and they're super low and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God, are they having a stroke? Because
Yeah.
like they can look really horrible and
Yeah.
like sound horrible and you know, they have one-sided weakness and you're like, oh my God, this could be really serious. But they just might need a juice. And sometimes that's all it takes. And sometimes it's an easy fix. Sometimes it's not an easy fix.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I guess we're only going to be able to deal with the, I guess, more common kind of ailments out there, because and that's sort of what you're packing for, because you're not gonna pack for World War III.
No, and if you have a major situation, hopefully you've got a spot in reach or a Garmin, something you can hit SOS or call for help.
Yeah, and that's actually a good thing to bear in mind. Is first aid is about, if it's not sort of just a cut that you can put a Band-Aid on, is about keeping the person alive till
They can
the
get
pros
to,
can get
yeah.
there.
Yeah. But if
you
you
know.
can't get them to, or if nobody knows where you are, that all the first aid in the world isn't going to save you.
Yeah.
So it's like the spot. Is that from Garmin?
No,
That's from
Two different-
that's just
Yeah,
the spot.
That's just from
Yeah.
Spot.
Yeah.
Spot's from Spot.
And then there's the Garmin InReach.
Yeah.
There's a number of different companies that are making satellite
right.
locator beacons. And if you're not in cell reception, and that's something you should research wherever
Yeah.
you're going. Quite honestly, because I sell them at work, and I will get people who it's like, it's kind of pricey.
Oh, I think it's important.
But
yeah.
but it's one of those deals of like, yeah, you use it once and it's worth 100 times what you
Yeah.
paid for it.
Totally.
And then if you don't have it and you're like, oh, fuck, I really wish
also-
I had that.
I think
Okay,
it
we're
gives
gonna
you more confidence to do stuff, and especially like I'm going to go solo backpacking in a couple weeks, and yeah, it's going to give you that.
It makes you
confidence.
feel better.
It
Yeah.
does.
I'll-
It's your safe
I'll be your
birthday.
check-in buddy.
There you
Thank
go. It's like if you get like if your intestines are like outside of your body because you got like mauled by a bear,
Totally.
at least someone who's gonna find your body.
Yeah.
Or at least find your stuff. So
and they can have it and use it.
Kijiji.
there you go. Yeah.
I also think it's important to have, and I wear it when I backpack generally, is my whistle. That way, if something goes wrong,
yeah.
this is
Yeah.
more of an emergency. I need help.
Yeah.
Then I've got it. And we actually usually have a whistle system. If I whistle twice to you, it's like I need to talk to you. So,
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, because 3 times is the emergency,
You're like, fuck.
right? So we've developed the
Yeah.
thing of like 2,
Me.
and then I'll do 2 back on. Okay, I hear you. I'll come back
yeah, I mean stop.
That's a
Yeah.
good idea.
because I'm faster.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of backpacks in that little chest strap have like
Yeah.
a little whistle.
those are great.
So like if nothing else,
except for when it's windy.
Because
Oh,
they're
yeah.
not super loud ones.
You're like, ee.
No.
Like, oh, wonderful wind.
But I do
Yeah.
have
Beautiful.
another question. What about sunstroke when you get too much sun? Like, what are ways? Is it just hydration and rest? And
Get as cool as possible. So like dump water on them, get them
Yeah.
out of their hot clothes, like get them,
okay,
you don't want to be insulating them. So like get them a little bit naked, dump water on them.
Get 'em in the shade.
Get them in the shade. And if that's really all you can do when you're out in the backcountry. Like if you're in town, like if you have access to like ice packs, putting cold, or if you're somewhere where there's like really cold water, get a water bottle or a bladder and
Yep.
fill it up and put it in like the
heat.
creasy points. So underneath your armpits and in your groin.
yeah,
It tends to cool people down and heat them up faster. Actually, if you're hypothermic,
hypothermic as well.
hot water
Yeah.
bottles in your groin.
I get in the desert. I get incredibly dry lips. Is that because I don't have sunscreen on my lips?
No, it's because there's
You
no
could just
humidity
be-
at all in the air.
Or
Yeah,
maybe
it
not
just
dry
like-
lips, but they get that little red ring on the outside, and then they start to crack. But
Because-
so it's a couple things. I probably should have
Breathe through your nose more.
Oh man, I have lip chaps
Really?
I have one in my car. I have like 2 in my work bag. I have 1 in every purse, and I have Vaseline in my kit. Yeah, I'm totally soft, and that's why I have like 30 of them. But having burny lips somewhere,
It's the worst.
it's the worst. I will take a horrible sunburn over burny lips because you just keep licking them and licking them,
and then
they crack, and then they burn, and you're like, oh, I need to stop licking them, and your mind's like, lick them more.
But I do know that you need to drink more water too,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's another key thing.
Especially
and
if
also,
you're pasty.
I found in Utah when we were in the backpacking, I had super dry nasal passage, so I got some saline solution.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's
That's the most
worthwhile
you
bringing
can
with
do
you.
about
That's important.
Yeah.
What about, and I know we're talking more about summer backpacking, but still winter, so hypothermia. What are some of the signs to that? Do you know?
You're not able to warm up regardless of like, you know, if someone's helping you try to warm up. Once you get to a certain point, your core body temperature, you start getting a little bit sleepy. You're not as quick to like react. Uncontrollable shivering, like your lips might have a blue tinge. So the thing to do with that is like, if you can build a fire. If you can heat up some like water on your jet boil or whatever, and like stick it inside of your coat into your creasy parts, so underneath your armpits or in your groin. And yeah, try to, if somebody's to the point that because there's like, everyone here has been like a little bit hypothermic, and you're like, oh, I'm really cold, this is uncomfortable, but you're not concerned. Like, it's annoying and it's not great, but you're not like concerned for your own life or limb kind of thing. If someone's getting to that point and they're like, no, like we're going to keep going on that whatever hike, and you're like, no, we're not, like we're done, because if you go to sleep, you might not wake up.
Yeah.
Well, and I heard that there's a dexterity test that if you can't take your point finger and your thumb
It's
and
your
touch
pinky.
it, or your pinky and do that, then there's
And that can start being frostbite, not hypothermia.
is that frostbite? Not hypothermia.
Like
okay.
basically you're restricted dexterity in the hands.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Is it okay? So,
interesting.
and I heard about. I did some kind of winter survival thing, like a challenge thing, and they talked about that, and they said that you may have to get somebody to strip down with you and go into a sleeping bag and warm up. Is that just for kinks, or is that is that legit?
No, that's legit, because like you are warmest at your like skin level, and every layer you go kind of beyond that, you know, it's not going to be as warm. So if you're in the sleeping bag and you're both in pants and you're both in a sweater, like
It's not
they're cocooned in their own little tubular body,
Gotcha.
you know, body warmth structure, let's say. But if you're down in your skivvies, like your 36.5 degree skin is on their 34 degree skin, so it's going to be easier to warm them up to a non-worrisome body temperature.
So I'm thinking about the time we were minus 40 degrees in Queen Elizabeth Wildlands around Christmas with Brooks, right? And we didn't expect it to be that cold.
Oh my God.
And my sleeping bag was at the most minus 18.
No, yours is a -2 with a sleeping bag liner.
Okay, minus 12.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but we were in a shelter, and we
With a
had
big fire.
with a big fire, Siberian log fire. And the shelter, the way it was prepared, we created it. We put like that, for lack of better term, saran wrapped it.
Yeah, turned it into a super
tie back.
shelter.
Yeah, which added another 10 degrees. So now I'm going from minus 22 to minus 22, or 12 to 22. Still, there's a difference. And I remember lying there and I was shivering, but I didn't feel cold. I was just shivering. So then Brooks, so I was in the middle. And of course, we did rotate every night, you know, because we all took turns being close to the fire to stoke the fire. And I had a really good pad, because I had both the Z Light plus my inflatable pad, so air mattress, so there's no issues there. And all he did was he lifted up his, legs and put it on top of mine. Just that, like, brought all this warmth on me. So I was good. And I actually did go to sleep. I didn't think I would sleep that night, but apparently I did because I was snoring.
Yeah.
They all could hear me. But that was scary. I was scared. I was scared. And I remember the other time we were now this was at QW, another time with Claudia and Ryan. It was not even minus 10, and my air mattress is nil because there was a leak in it. And I woke up a couple times, and the second time I'm like, there's a problem here. But at what point should you be afraid. I mean, like you just talked a bit about that, but would you have been concerned if I had not had that extra warmth and I was shivering? Like, at what point are there any neurological or
Well, it's when you
cognitive signs?
yeah, like when you aren't thinking straight.
You start to get really
Like-
dopey.
Yeah, like when you go,
drowsy.
hey, wait a sec, I'm shivering, but I'm not cold. Like you're thinking, right? Now the thing is that you didn't do is communicate that because you didn't communicate it till afterwards. You didn't communicate it in the moment.
Yeah, I did. I totally did.
Oh well, not to me.
Yeah, I did. No, I did. And you said, here, put on this. No, you did.
Oh, okay.
You gave me another extra, my down blanket, which did help.
Yeah.
You said, here, try this. And
Oh, because then if that's the case,
yeah.
I don't remember it the same way.
And the way I resolved that was because I wasn't sure if I was going to make it through the night. I thought, well, we're either going to do one or two things. I'll either sit by the fire. That was going to be my next move. So I'll just stand by the fire and sit there all night.
Yeah, so by the fire was hot enough that it melted my bear canister.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
sounds
that would be
delightful.
fine. And move around. Because in that temperature, funny enough, is you just move around, you're fine, right? As odd as that sounds. Or I would say we're all leaving, you know.
Yeah.
And
we either have something else to try, and if it
Yeah.
doesn't work, then you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, but I think
we're
the fire
done.
I would have been fine. Just stick around the fire.
If it was hot enough to melt. Yeah.
In that case,
You
take some
would
extra
have been
caffeine
exhausted,
tablets.
but
We were only 45 minutes in.
oh, that's
Yeah.
not bad.
It
Yeah.
wasn't too bad.
It was basically the first time she'd ever been winter camping. So it was like we didn't go in very far.
Yeah, I have a great,
For this.
what I say, National Geographic shot of my eyelashes all frozen and
Oh.
my nose looks like it's going to fall off. And everybody's like, oh my God, are you crazy?
Yeah, it's like frost in her hair.
Oh, yeah. Everything's all
God.
white. Yeah. It's a great shot.
Yeah.
But
That's the thing too. It's like when you are having any sort of health issue, you're cold, you're too hot, communicate with the people you're with. And don't feel that, oh, okay, well, everybody else is fine, so I'll suck it up.
You got to be smart about like what your limits are, and you're like, yeah, absolutely. There's going to be a limit of, I don't want to say sucking up, but you know, if you're sore or you're tired, then you got to suck it up for the good of group. But if you're at a point where like you don't have the right gear for the conditions, and maybe it's a totally different weather scenario than what was supposed to happen, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh shit, like we're all kind of fucked a little bit, or you know, you're just not prepared, or like I'm permanently cold as soon as it gets like a little damp and a little crisp outside, like my hands and my feet are freezing.
yeah.
You gotta, like you said, communicate to the group, because if something happens and like you pass out or it gets to the point where it's harder for them to help you because you have that much farther to kind of bring you back to your normal homeostatic self.
Yeah. And that's sort of one of the biggest things is that if there's just clear communication, then it sort of can be back and forth. And then
Problem
it's like,
solving.
oh, here's
Yeah.
this idea, here's this idea, here's this idea. Because, you know, in that I can handle way more cold than you can.
Oh, totally.
If we needed to, then you take my sleeping bag and I'll take yours.
And just as a side note to folks, another big thing that you can do too is consume more calories, like fat.
Oh, totally.
Is if you're trying to stay warm, and just think about too. It doesn't even have to be in the winter. Like if you're caught on a hike and somehow you get screwed and you're away from your shelter.
It's
right?
wet and windy.
It's wet and windy. It's cold. You're exposed. I really like the emergency. I know this is not an emergency. This is more of a first aid kit, but I like to stick my emergency blanket in there because they're super warm. And if you've ever tried one, if you haven't tried one, you should. They're like $1 or $2, whatever. I remember I did one after some kind of a 60K weekend 10 breast cancer walk, and they gave us one because it was a little chilly. I'm like, wow, this gives off a lot of heat because
It's not giving off any. It's reflecting
I know
yours back.
it's just reflecting it back, but you underestimate what it can do, and in those conditions, it can
Totally.
When it also
They pack
Thank
up
you.
small and they weigh like nothing.
weighs like nothing.
and it cuts the wind.
Yeah,
You know, and if you can avoid things being a problem, like that really is the first aid,
Yeah.
right?
Prevention.
Yeah, like hike with poles so you don't bust your ankles. Use proper footwear.
Totally.
You know.
Yeah.
Basically,
Take care of your feet.
stop and you know, hydrate and eat properly. All of these things, then can avoid a ton of problems, right? They can be the first aid. When you actually get hurt, that's the second aid.
Yeah. Yeah. Talk about dehydration because, and muscle cramps it's really dehydration. Do you have any ideas about that? Except for drink more fucking water.
Yeah, drink more water. Don't be afraid of like those like electrolyte tab thingies. They're called like Mio. No. And you get them in they're like in a little tube and you drop in your water.
Noon tablets.
Yeah, that's noon.
Okay.
And like there's like gels you can have if you really want to get fancy with it. This also helps for hangovers. Also, Pedialyte, because that has like all of the electrolytes and calories and stuff that you really need, and it's in a fairly small package. I feel like it might also come in a powder, so you could really take something like that with you anywhere. Like you can drink Gatorade. Gatorade's actually meant to be drank with water. Like it's not meant to be drank just by itself. So it actually does better for you to drink with water as well because it has so much in it.
If you stay on top of your hydration and replacing the electrolytes you're sweating out before you have a problem, then it's sort of your actual first aid where you're not getting dehydrated. And because most of the muscle cramps come from a depletion of magnesium, right? Because you know you're sweating it out. You sweat out all the electrolytes like sodium, potassium, magnesium, and zinc and selenium, and you know. So I found racing bikes when I started. Like I used to do endurance mountain bike racing, and somewhere at the 5 or 6 hour mark, I would start getting these crazy muscle cramps, and then I would like pound down like a handful of electrolyte tablets, and then 20 minutes later, gone.
You can probably just chomp on them. Like,
although they're super salty.
Are they? Oh,
yeah.
You could if you really needed to,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
we don't recommend it.
But then after that, I just started doing the thing of making sure, like, I then was able to get the same stuff in the electrolyte tablets, get it in a powder form. And so every bottle of water I drank had electrolytes in it. And then your body
Stay
absorbed
ahead
it
of the
better.
game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if it's hot, you're sweating a ton, it really helps.
It's not going to be a problem if you don't make it a problem.
Yeah. You know, and that's where with a lot of these things, because when I think of any time that I've had dehydration, 90% of them were avoidable.
Totally.
You know, I've had a few times down in the desert where I
that-
misjudged water sources.
Well, that's
and you
why
just had to go till you got there.
Yeah, that's why I really like the bladders, because you're pretty consistently sipping on water versus
Having to
I should stop and
Take it out.
Yeah. Something else I think that's really important is nutrition. I was listening to a really good episode. I forget her name, but the idea is that a lot of people, I lose my appetite when I backpack. So I actually eat less in quantity versus what I do here in normal civilization, right? So people typically consume about 2,000 calories. So this lady was talking about when she first did the Triple Crown, she was only consuming 2,000 calories, which is crazy, right? Where when she figured it out, she needed to consume more like 4,000.
Oh, wow.
Right? Yeah. And some people even more. And that's even low.
Yeah.
So I think that point was well taken because and I've experienced it too. I had an epiphany where I'm like, holy shit, Skittles is like fuel jet.
Jet fuel.
Jet fuel. It's like jet fuel. I am just like buzzing by. And it's also painkillers help too if you're feeling it, right? But not necessarily what you typically see in your first aid package kit. But the point is nutrition and knowing what energy drinks or gels or candy or sugar can do for you, along with protein.
Oh, totally.
It's really important
And
for feeling good.
Yeah, because a lot of times, if you're somebody who is body's acclimatized to burn fat. And I tend to find guys, because I found this with training athletes, guys can go longer, even though generally we have a lower body fat percentage than women do, me notwithstanding, that guys can go longer without running out of gas.
Really? I thought it was women that were better at endurance.
Well, basically, that's if they're getting some food in.
Gotcha.
Like, and I think part of it can maybe due to testosterone or the fact that guys have bigger muscles, which then in turn means they can store more glycogen. So, chicken and the egg.
Gotcha.
But like, I can tend to go longer without eating than you can.
Well, the other thing they were talking about
Yeah.
was the idea that if you carry more body fat on you, you can probably tap into that too as well. Whereas if you're a very thin person, you really need to be on top of.
Yeah, because if you don't
Your
eat enough
calories.
calories, you're going to start breaking down tissue, whether it be
Exactly.
fat or muscle. And someone who has, because you use fats first, because your body's like, oh no, like we need to keep this muscle. So it's going to be fats. So if you're like, there's two people that are starving and one is like waif thin, the other one's like an average person. The average person is probably going to be able to go longer, like either like survive terms or being able to, be searching for food or something like that longer than the waif thin person, because you start breaking down the muscle and you lose your strength. Whereas if you break down your fats first, you still have your actual physical muscles to carry you over the next hill in search of food or whatever.
Yeah.
So if you got a couple extra pounds, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
Have
So-
that dessert.
That's right.
Cool.
So anyway, I hope you guys learned something today. About how to build your own first aid kit. We're going to have links to the articles on sort of suggestions and all that kind of jazz. And you can also buy some ready-made first aid kits. The only downfall, they don't tend to have the medications in them.
I should market my own.
Ooh.
You should. You should actually.
That's actually, I might do that.
Emily,
Let me know
Emily's
if anyone's interested.
we'll have
No,
to
I think
hook you up with one of the outdoorsy companies.
Oh my God, I could.
But yeah, so if you've got questions, Emily's on Instagram as the Backcountry Nurse. Send them her way.
Yeah, get at me.
And it was fun because when we got here, Emily was verifying some things with her husband Ryan, who's a newly minted ER doctor.
I was like, what's the daily dose? Because for Tylenol, you can have up to 4 grams. So like if you take 2 extra strength, that's 975 or like 1,000. So you can do that 4 times a day. But I was like, oh my God, what's the like max dose per day? So I was like, Ryan, what's the dose? And it's nice. I have like a little pharmacist and physician and all things.
It's like
It's my husband.
Playing doctor's weird though.
It takes on a whole new meaning in this house.
Yeah.
Bear, bear.
Anyway, so this is probably going to be the last time that we get to talk to Emily for a while because she's going out west.
Yeah, I'm going out west.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's so exciting.
So you will have to keep us informed and in touch. You've got a YouTube channel now, don't you?
Yeah, I started it and then I put one video on and then I got really busy with wedding planning and then I never went back to it. But now I have time because the wedding is over. And once we're done packing up the house, then I'll have time for things.
And you'll have to make like lots of road trip.
I know. Well, we're going to Switzerland and Italy for 3 weeks. And then we're going out west. So
now the only problem is that we've on the podcast and on your Instagram you've let everybody know you're married. So
I know. Sorry, boys.
yeah. So you can't keep that allure in the background.
That like,
of, maybe
is she available? Like
maybe they have a chance.
Damn.
When are you going to Switzerland and Italy?
We leave in 9 days. So we leave on the 23rd.
So exciting.
By
So
the time this airs, I will be in Italy.
So what did you decide about Switzerland? Last we spoke, we were talking about,
So I'm very interested in the cheese and the hiking, and Ryan is very interested in the hiking, less so the cheese. But it's a really cool spot. Like we're gonna be staying in Gimmelwald, which is like this tiny little mountain town where nobody has cars, and you have to take a gondola up. So we have to do that at least like twice a day for 4 or 5 days. So it's gonna be pretty cool. And then we're going to that that town where the artist who did, I think it was Alien vs. Predator, he's from there. So there's like an Alien vs. Predator themed cafe.
Oh,
And it's really cool. Or like a little restaurant thing.
cool.
So I'm going to say that when I was in Mount Schweitz, we were hiking up it, and lo and behold, there's a little fridge on that mountain trail with cheese.
I have heard about these. They're like
cheese and some other homemade products.
Yeah, it's like it's on the honor
So
system, or like
carry some
just
money with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of them Swiss francs,
Give me that,
Or
give me,
you-
give me that mountain
So-
cheese.
or they use the euros.
It's
francs.
the francs, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Francs.
So they're part of Europe, but they said fuck you to the euro.
Pretty much.
That's the Swiss. What are you gonna do?
Can't get mad at them.
They do. They have their own technology.
Yeah.
They have some really cool inventions. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, we're going to sign off this episode. And like I said, hopefully you guys learned something. Everybody stay safe out there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't freeze. Don't burn.
Eat enough, drink enough.
Don't get too many cuts and bruises,
Yeah.
and stay the fuck away from the ticks.
Yep.
So remember, permethrin for everything. So until next time, work hard, play dirty.
Bye.
Bye.